Hi everyone. So I thought it was time for another installment in my beginner park jet transmitter series. Since my last video discussing my FlySky, did a bit of a review after sort of my first flight session with the FlySky FS-i6. I did try the firmware upgrade. I actually didn't have a problem with flashing it. Once my cable showed up, this is the one I got from Banggood. USB into the computer, and then the S-video jack goes into the back here. So I didn't have any problem actually with the flashing the firmware. Now I've written a detailed article. I didn't put it on my blog. I actually started a thread on the RC Powers forum, so I'll have that link down below, and it has links to where I found the firmware, the video that I used as my guide. So anyway, flashing the firmware was not a big problem. As you might remember if you've watched my other videos, the main reason that I wanted to flash the firmware was I just wanted to have a timer on my transmitter. I wasn't worried about making it 10 channel or RSSI, I think, was the other excuse me, thing that came along with the firmware upgrade. Anyway, long story short, you can read more details in the article. I didn't find once I flashed the firmware into the transmitter, I didn't find it very user-friendly. Now, I'll fully admit, hand on heart, I'm not the most intelligent guy when it comes to computers and firmware and all that sort of stuff, so I tried getting the timer. I could get the timer to work, but I had to go. It only seemed to work in the AF-HDS 2A mode, with the FlySky receiver that I bought with this transmitter. Now that kind of defeats the purpose, because I wanted to be able to use. I've been using my Hobby King receivers with this transmitter because I have lots of those, and I didn't want to buy a whole bunch of more receivers. Now in the AF-HDS mode, which is what I have to select to use my Hobby King receivers, it did show the timer on the menu, but for the life of me I could not figure out how to get it set. And then even in the other mode where I could get the timer, I was really having a hard time understanding certain values that were on the firmware to get it to be slave to a switch. I did manage to get it so that it was on my throttle, but then I tried playing around with this one particular value, which I think started at 2200. I don't really know what the meaning of that was, and either it wouldn't, it would advance, or it would start before I even advanced the throttle, or I would advance the throttle and it wouldn't work. So anyway, long story short, if there's somebody out there in YouTube land that can better explain or point me in the direction of a video that explains how to set that up once you've downloaded the firmware, I would certainly appreciate it. Since then, essentially I've just been using a countdown timer on my watch. So if you've watched my videos, I've been using this pretty much exclusively with my my winter beater RC Powers SU30 version 4. So you'll see me kind of reach over and start the timer on my watch, and that actually has worked just fine. To be quite honest with you, so if I don't ever get a timer on this thing, it's not it's I guess not going to be a huge I'm not going to lay awake at night worrying about it. But anyway, so again, if somebody out there knows how to the easiest way to set up that timer when you've downloaded the firmware, or if there's a video, please post that in the comments down below. So I have now probably, I don't know how many flight sessions, a lot of flight sessions. I've probably put I don't know, 50-60 flights now into it with both a MiG-29 version 1 that I built for my beginner park jet build series, as well as the RC Powers SU30 version 4. What I've found is, these sticks, I haven't opened the back of it up, to play around to see if I could adjust the tension on the stick. And then I guess, from a standpoint, if I'm looking at this as you know, a beginner or early on radio in your park jet or RC career, maybe that's not something a beginner would want to be doing anyways, is opening up the back of it, but I'm sure there's probably videos on YouTube. So what I've done is over time I found now the SU30 version 4 is excuse me, is a pretty agile plane. So what I've found is that, you know, I've played around with it, and what I found over time was I needed to go up to about 38 to 40% expo to get the same feel on the sticks with that plane as what I used to have with my Turnigy 9X at about 15% expo. Now these sticks are, you know, even though this transmitter is, I think, close to 4 years old, these sticks are actually still, you know, they're still pretty tight, you know, good, really good spring tension. But, you know, I've flown thousands and thousands of flights literally with this transmitter, so, you know, that's the feel that I'm used to. So in order to get the same, I just went up to about 40% expo. Now, remembering that the expo values on this are actually in negative, so if you want the sticks to be less sensitive around the center, you need to put a negative value in the expo, not a positive value. In my Turnigy 9X, it's a positive value to you know, to desensitize the sticks. But anyway, so that seems to be working out really, really well. I have, you know, sort of adjusted my way of doing things because the inactivity alarm on this thing goes off, I think, within about a minute, which I guess is a good thing, but for me, I find it's a bit annoying. So what I normally do now when I fly with this transmitter is, as I walk out to pick up my plane, first thing I do is I just unplug the battery and then shut the transmitter off, and then I don't have to worry about this, because once it starts beeping inactivity, it's, you know, it's kind of annoying until you actually touch the stick, which, if the plane is still plugged in, is not necessarily something that I might want to do. But what I have found is that by doing that, you know, even by shutting it off for you know, I don't know, 45 seconds, maybe a minute, couple minutes, while I'm, you know, taking the old battery out, putting a new battery in, is it seems to lengthen the lifespan of the batteries. Now, I'm just using these, you know, these are rechargeable NiCads, is what I'm using. These are actually fairly old. I've had them for probably about 5 years, because I used to use them in my old Spectrum DX6i. But I think that I could probably, you know, I could probably get a couple of days of flying out of those batteries before I'd have to recharge them. So that's actually not too bad, considering how old they are. And it's, you know, it's cheaper in the long run and easier on the environment than me using you know, disposable NiCads that I buy at the dollar store or Walmart or whatever. So yeah, so it's, you know, I'm really used to flying with it now. I have been flying my SU30 quite a bit, so it's actually, for me, I find it's a smoother. If I've been flying with this transmitter quite a bit, and then I go and fly with this for a while, it's actually a smoother transition going from the 9X to this than it is going the other way. When I first go back to this and I'm flying, because there's that extra stick tension, natural stick tension, I do find it, you know, it takes me a little bit, I mean, not, you know, half a dozen flights or anything, but you know, it is noticeable sort of on the first flight, but then after that it's not a problem. Now, I do obviously notice that this is a bigger transmitter and heavier. I think in a previous video, I want to say that this is like 400 grams more than what this one is. So this does feel, you know, it does feel very light in my hands. I haven't had any problems with, you know, touch wood, I haven't had any problems with range or anything like that, or you know, whatever. I've been really enjoying this transmitter. So again, you know, it doesn't have the some of the functionality. I can't really do anything funky like having you know, a full 6-servo setup on my park jet and then having flapper-ons or spoiler-ons for, you know, doing high alpha or any of that sort of stuff. But that's fine. And even though, oh, I should say, I actually did in that blog post, or that post on the RC Powers forum, I also have a link, because after I had flashed it and then I realized that the timer wasn't going to work, I was worried that I'd actually bricked my radio but I did find a link to being able to flash it with the back to the default settings. So that worked out really, really well. So I don't think that this is a wasted investment, this cable, because I think that there's still enough people that are out there using this and probably working on firmware that maybe eventually there will be other firmware that possibly I might want to flash it. I mean, obviously it would be very, very convenient if this thing had just come with a timer right from the factory. Then it would have, to me anyway, that would have really upped its cool factor. Maybe it would have upped the price too. Who knows? But anyway, so I'm really, really satisfied with this. Again, I think now after having 50 or more flights with it, with a couple of different airplanes, I definitely think that this is a great beginner transmitter for park jets. I mean, I know there's lots of people around who have used it before, so anyway, I'm just kind of giving you my 2 cents worth on top of other reviews that other people have done. But it's a very good little radio, and considering for the transmitter, I'm still into it for, I mean, I already had the rechargeable batteries. I'm still into it for less than $50. I'm still waiting on a couple of cables that I'll be able to hook it up and experiment and see how it interfaces with my computer with a simulator. I'll probably go the cheapest route possible and download something like RC Desk Pilot or something like that, just to experiment with, in the spirit of trying to keep it as beginner and as inexpensive as possible. So anyway, so there's my there's my update on this transmitter, sort of a midterm update. I've been using it for several months now, off and on. So we'll see how things go. How the sticks and switches and all that sort of stuff. I just as I started this video, I did notice that the little base ring here that holds this switch on had just started to come loose a little bit. So that might be something that I might need to keep an eye on. I might just actually tighten all these little rings here that hold these switches in, just to make sure those are good and snug. But anyway, so this is working. Oh, I should also mention, I did experiment actually. I think I mentioned in a previous video, I picked these up from Hobby King, and I'll have a link to these down below. I got them on sale for like 43 cents, so they were super cheap. But what I find is that I think they're just a tiny bit longer than these stock sticks, but they're a little bit skinnier. These ones are a little bit thicker here. And what I found is when I gave these a trial, was I found that I didn't quite have the same feel. I mean, we're only talking about 1 millimeter or so, but I actually prefer these sticks to these ones that I picked up from Hobby King, just because they're a little bit thicker this way. And I mean, just because I hold my transmitter this way and work my sticks this way, it just seems to work out. So anyway, again, it's only 43 cents, but these actually fit my my Turnigy 9X. So the backup Turnigy 9X, that will be, in the future, I'm going to be looking to upgrade that to OpenTX firmware. I already have the little programming Arduino, I think it's an Arduino programming chip set up for that. I just need to get the courage up to do the little delicate soldering. There's 6 wires that need to be soldered between the little chip and the main circuit board. So I just need to get the courage up to do that. Maybe that'll be something that'll come later in the summer or towards the fall when I'm not doing flying or other summer activities. So anyway, so there's my update. Yeah, like I said, I'm really super impressed. For the money that you spend on this. Yeah, okay, it doesn't come with a timer, and the inactivity alarm going off. So quickly after not doing anything is a bit annoying. But for the cost, it's something that I think I've been able to find, for me anyway, some good workarounds. But yeah, from a standpoint of flying, versatility at the field, it's a great bang for the buck for me so far. So there we go. So there's my current update on my beginner transmitter series. Hopefully as time goes by, I'll get this sorted out to interface with a simulator on my computer, and I'll be able to give you an update on that. And then, like like I said, when I get the courage, I'll hopefully have soldered up my backup Turnigy 9X and flash that with OpenTX, and then start experimenting with that. So there we go. Please check out the comments down below for some links to these goodies. This will also be part of the this video will be part of the playlist that I started on this whole series. If you haven't watched any of the other videos and you're needing help on how to set up this transmitter for a basic park jet using 6 servos for elevons, independent ailerons, and rudders, you know, please check out the playlist that this video is in, and I've got a couple of videos on on how I did that. So there we go. So thanks very much for watching. Blue skies, calm winds to everyone. Park jet noise, the other sound of freedom, baby. Take care.